Uncover the Soviet Union's most catastrophic aircraft in just 10 shocking revelations. Are you ready to explore the depths of these historical downfalls? Number 1. Tupolev Tu-122, 1959. The Tupolev Tu-116 stands as a testament to the Soviet Union's ambitious yet ultimately flawed endeavors in aviation during the Khrushchev era. What went wrong? Tasked with swiftly creating an aircraft for diplomatic missions after Stalin's death, Soviet engineers devised a makeshift solution by repurposing the Tu-95 bomber. Stripping away its military hardware, they converted the Tu-95 into an airliner capable of carrying 24 passengers, complete with a cook, a flight attendant, a navigator-announcer, and armed guards. The modifications included removing protective and bombing equipment to make room for passenger cabins, a lavatory, a wardrobe, and a service room. Despite its technical similarities to the Tu-95, the Tu-116 featured passenger amenities such as pressurized cabins, 2 passenger compartments with beds and couches, and even a retractable staircase for ground access and emergency exits. However, its resemblance to a strategic bomber raised eyebrows, especially for diplomatic missions. The fatal blow to the Tu-116's reputation came from the disdain of the first secretary of the Communist Party, who found the aircraft's 737-style air stair beneath his dignity. This setback positioned the Tu-116 to menial tasks, shuttling technicians to the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site far from the limelight of diplomatic endeavors. In the end, the Tu-116's ill-conceived design and careless implementation condemned it to obscurity, earning it a reputation akin to the Miss Havisham of Soviet aviation, forgotten and pitiable. Number 2. Antonov An-10, 1959. The An-10 was a total flop. It embodied a cocktail of engineering mishaps and design flaws that plagued its existence. From its inception, it seemed as though the Antonov team had received a peculiar directive from the Ministry of Aircraft Production to make flying an experience riddled with discomfort and peril. Initial test flights were a harbinger of the chaos to come, as stability issues plagued the aircraft from the outset. In a desperate attempt to rectify this, awkward ventral fins were tacked on, resembling an afterthought more than a solution. But alas, even these additions failed to stop the aircraft's unruly behavior, prompting the addition of quasi-winglets to the horizontal tails. The result? An aircraft that shook violently, resembling a paint mixer on overdrive, instilling dread even in the most seasoned of passengers. To compound matters, the An-10 suffered from a dearth of windows, a cardinal sin for any aircraft destined to ferry passengers through the skies. The insufficient number of holes not only robbed occupants of natural light and panoramic views, but also induced nausea in those susceptible to air sickness, turning each journey into a nauseating ordeal. Furthermore, the absence of a proper baggage hold was a glaring oversight. With the low floor gobbling up valuable storage space, this deficiency was particularly bad given the aircraft's roots in the Soviet Union, where efficiency and practicality were often prioritized over luxury. Perhaps the most damning flaw of all was the An-10's faulty anti-icing system, a critical component for safe operation in harsh winter conditions. Tragically, this deficiency proved fatal, with 2 aircraft succumbing to the perils of ice accumulation during their inaugural winter flights, resulting in the loss of 72 lives. Despite its shortcomings, a modest 104 An-10s were churned out from the assembly lines. However, this tally was greeted by a string of accidents, with at least 12 aircraft meeting untimely demises, often accompanied by tragic loss of life. Yet amidst the chaos and despair, there was a silver lining of sorts. The An-10 did offer passengers the dubious comfort of large, plush seats, a small consolation for those embarking on what could very well be their final journey. In a final twist of fate, after a mere 13 years of service, the An-10's wings finally gave way due to metal fatigue. It was the culmination of years of problems and shoddy craftsmanship. The An-10 story was a cautionary tale of what happens when the pursuit of progress is prioritized over safety. A tragic end for an aircraft that could have been so much more. Number 3. Silvansky IS, 1939. The saga of the Silvansky IS reads like a tragicomedy set in the turbulent skies of Soviet-era aviation. A.V. Silvansky, armed with state funding and a vision, embarked on a quest to create a fighter that would carve his name into the annals of Russian aviation history. However, what unfolded was a series of missteps and mishaps that would cement the Silvansky name not as a pioneer, but as a cautionary tale. In the year of 1937, amidst the oppressive regime of Stalinist Russia, Silvansky unveiled his brainchild, a low-winged monoplane powered by a formidable 1,000 horsepower radial engine. Armed with 2 heavy machine guns, the aircraft held promise on paper. Yet, as development progressed, it became apparent that Silvansky was more of a reckless improviser than a meticulous engineer. The prototype, nearly complete by 1938, revealed fundamental flaws during initial tests. The undercarriage, designed with woefully inadequate wheel wells, failed to retract into the wings as intended. Silvansky's solution? Simply shorten the undercarriage legs, overlooking the resulting drag caused by protruding wheelbase. With this glaring oversight addressed, attention turned to the propeller, only to discover that modifications to the undercarriage rendered it too large, risking ground contact upon takeoff. Undeterred by these setbacks, Silvansky, ever the embodiment of audacity, took a saw to the propeller blades, shearing off inches in a bid to salvage his creation. Refusing permission to fly from the factory airfield, Silvansky sought refuge at the State Flight Research Institute in Moscow. There, under the cold gaze of skepticism, a test pilot reluctantly strapped into the cockpit of the maiden flight. On that fateful morning in early 1939, amidst biting cold and mounting anxiety, the IS rumbled down the makeshift runway. With the plane teetering on the brink of disaster, the pilot pushed the throttle to the limit and pulled off an incredible feat of flying. After a single circuit around the airfield, the pilot had seen enough. They condemned the aircraft as unsafe and deemed it unfit to fly. It was a close call and one that could have ended in tragedy. The Silvansky Bureau never recovered from the calamitous debut of the IS. It was a crushing blow that led to bankruptcy and a legacy of failure. The IS stands as a warning to all who seek to take flight. Without proper engineering, disaster can strike at any moment. The skies may be vast, but they are not infinite, and even the boldest ambitions can fall short. Number 4. Sukhoi Su-7, 1955. In the aftermath of World War II, the Soviet arsenal lacked a dedicated ground attack aircraft, relying instead on the venerable Sturmovik. However, with the advent of nuclear weaponry, the focus shifted away from battlefield close support, relegating such aircraft to the sidelines. Amid the backdrop of burgeoning insurgencies and localized conflicts in the mid-1960s, the need for a specialized ground attack aircraft became apparent. This is where the Su-7 showed up, known as the Soviet Union's answer to modern ground attack needs. Yet, despite its purpose-built design, the Su-7 failed to live up to expectations, earning a dubious reputation both domestically and abroad. One of the Su-7's glaring flaws lay in its inadequate performance during combat trials. Egyptian pilot Tahsin Zaki's first-hand account vividly illustrates the aircraft's shortcomings during a mission over the Suez Canal. Laden with a heavy bomb load, the Su-7 struggled to accelerate and maintain control as a result of excessive drag and instability at low speeds. These deficiencies not only compromised their effectiveness, but also put the pilots' lives at risk, painting a grim picture of the aircraft's combat capabilities. Moreover, the Su-7's dismal range further worsened its limitations, curtailing its ability to provide sustained air support where it was most needed. The design's reliance on the Lyulka AL-7F1 turbojet, while powerful, came at the cost of reduced fuel capacity, leaving little room for extended operations. Coupled with its vulnerability to foreign object damage and lack of air-to-air missile capability, the Su-7 emerged as a vulnerable target in hostile skies, particularly against more agile adversaries like the Israeli Mirage. As Egyptian pilot Gabr Ali Gabr clearly put it, the Su-7 was a totally bloody useless aircraft. Offering little in terms of bomb load and offensive capability, it stood as a stark contrast to its contemporaries, failing to bridge the gap between outdated designs like the MiG-17 and more advanced iterations such as the Su-20, which only saw development years later. Despite the Soviet Union's aspirations to bolster its ground attack capabilities, the Su-7 ultimately fell short, serving as a cautionary tale of the perils of rushed development and inadequate testing. As the world entered an era of increasingly complex warfare, the Su-7's shortcomings underscored the importance of thorough evaluation and innovation in aircraft design, leaving lingering questions about what could have been if the Soviet Union had invested more wisely in its ground attack aircraft program. Number 5. Yakovlev Yak-38, 1971. In the smoky rooms of Soviet design bureaus, where ambitions soared higher than the ceilings, the Yakovlev Yak-38 emerged as a daring dream incarnate. A fighter capable of defying gravity's grip with vertical takeoff and landing prowess. It was an audacious endeavor, one that set the stage for a technological saga. Yet, behind its promising facade, lurked the seeds of its downfall, waiting to unleash their twisted roots. As the Yak-38 took flight, it was not alone in the sky of innovation. Across the Iron Curtain, counterparts in the West sketched their visions, but few dared to tread where the forger boldly ventured. Despite countless ideas that soared during this time, only a few ever became real aircraft. One such success was the Yak-38, a testament to human tenacity in the face of adversity. It was a victory for the engineers who worked tirelessly to bring their vision to life. In a world of broken dreams, the Yak-38 took flight and soared. Unfortunately, as whispers of success fluttered through the corridors of power, the Yak-38's destiny took an unforeseen turn. Plagued by the specter of stagnation, its path diverged from the trajectory of triumph. The promise of a successor, the Yak-41 Freestyle, loomed on the horizon like a beacon of hope, only to be extinguished by the cruel hand of cancellation. Left to fend for itself in the unforgiving skies, the Yak-38 faced a formidable adversary, the looming silhouette of the Hawker Siddeley Harrier. While the Yak-38 possessed the awe-inspiring ability to defy gravity's grasp, its combat capability faltered in the face of adversity. Like a bird with clipped wings, its payload dwindled, its range dwindled, and its air-to-air prowess waned. The weight of 2 lift engines burdened its aspirations, rendering it a cumbersome relic in the age of aerial agility. During testing in Afghanistan's harsh conditions, the forger struggled to keep up with its competitors. Its limited payload meant that it was outmatched by other aircraft, unable to carry the same weight of weaponry. The forger's performance was a disappointment, and it soon became clear that it could not meet the needs of the military. Its limitations were laid bare for all to see, a bitter blow for its creators. As the winds of war swept across distant lands, the Yak-38 stood as a silent witness to its own uselessness. While the Harrier danced across the skies, leaving its mark on history's canvas, the forger languished in the shadows of irrelevance. Its legacy, once poised to soar amongst the stars, is now tethered to the annals of aviation's failures. Number 6. Lavochkin LaGG-3, 1940. The Lavochkin LaGG-3, despite its initial promise, stumbled into a bad state due to a long list of design flaws and performance shortcomings. Initially conceived as the LaGG-1, the aircraft was designed around the powerful Klimov VK-106 engine, boasting a robust 1,350 horsepower. However, the failure of this engine to reach its full potential forced a hasty replacement with the underwhelming Klimov M105, which lacked around 300 horsepower compared to its predecessor. This engine swap proved disastrous, as it severely compromised the LaGG-3's performance, resulting in abysmal climb rates, sluggish top speeds, and poor maneuverability. The LaGG-3's shortcomings were painfully apparent to its pilots, who struggled with its inadequate power and handling characteristics. Its inability to pull out of dives or execute sharp turns left pilots vulnerable in combat situations, where agility and responsiveness were paramount. Despite its robust construction, which allowed it to withstand considerable battle damage, the LaGG-3's durability offered little solace to its crews in the face of its glaring performance deficiencies. As a fighter aircraft, the LaGG-3 failed to live up to expectations and quickly earned a reputation as a liability in the skies. Its shortcomings were further escalated by the superior performance of its adversaries, which outclassed it in speed, maneuverability, and overall combat effectiveness. In engagements against enemy fighters, the LaGG-3 was often outmatched and outmaneuvered, leading to significant losses and diminishing morale among its pilots. While a lot of mean things have been said about the LaGG-3's inability to deliver, the LaGG-3 did have one notable contribution to aviation history. It served as the basis for the development of the LaGG-5. Learning from the mistakes of its predecessor, the Lavochkin design team made significant improvements to the LaGG-5, addressing many of the deficiencies that plagued the LaGG-3. With a more powerful engine and refined aerodynamics, the LaGG-5 emerged as a formidable fighter aircraft, redeeming the tarnished reputation of its predecessor. Number 7. Kalinin K-7. The Kalinin K-7 was a grandiose project born from the ambitious dreams of 1930 Soviet engineers, designed by Konstantin Kalinin, a World War I aviator turned aircraft designer. It was a colossal aircraft, reminiscent of a blend between a Spitfire and Frank Lloyd Wright's iconic Falling Waterhouse, enlarged to match Stalin's colossal ego. In an era where bigger meant better, the USSR aimed to showcase its prowess through monumental engineering feats, and the Kalinin K-7 was meant to epitomize this ambition. Designed in Kharkiv, Ukraine, the K-7 boasted an unconventional layout with 6 tractor engines mounted on the wing leading edge and a single pusher engine at the rear. This massive aircraft was envisioned for various roles, from civil transport capable of carrying 120 passengers and 15,000 pounds of mail, to a troop transport accommodating 112 fully equipped paratroopers, or even a formidable bomber armed to the teeth with autocannons, machine guns, and up to 21,200 pounds of bombs. The first flight of the K-7 on August 11, 1933, was brief and plagued with instability and severe vibration issues caused by the resonance of the airframe with the engine frequency. Despite completing 7 test flights, disaster struck on November 21, 1933, when one of the tail booms failed structurally mid-flight, resulting in a catastrophic crash that claimed the lives of 14 crew members and 1 unfortunate bystander. Initially hailed as a triumph of Soviet engineering, the K-7's existence was seen as a political victory, symbolizing the nation's self-sufficiency in utilizing domestically produced steel. However, subsequent investigations hinted at suspicions of sabotage, with the state security organization, the Joint State Political Directorate, OGPU, involved in the inquiry. In a desperate attempt to rectify the structural flaws, Soviet engineers resorted to crude methods, welding massive steel slabs onto the tail booms to reinforce them. But even with these efforts, the aircraft's fatal flaw persisted. On its 8th flight, tragedy struck again as the K-7 lost its right tail boom at a mere 350 feet, claiming more lives and sealing the fate of the ill-fated behemoth. Number 8. Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-23 MS, 1973. The Mikoyan-Gurevich MiG-23 MS, hailed as an advanced fighter, initially sparked excitement among Arab MiG-21 pilots eager for an upgrade. However, the reality fell far short of expectations. Supplied during a critical period when Syria and Egypt were embroiled in conflict, these early MiG-23s proved to be a cruel disappointment, leading to a series of setbacks and losses. One of the notable features of the MiG-23 was its variable geometry wings, a groundbreaking innovation at the time. Controlled hydraulically, these wings offered 3 main sweep angles, each tailored for different flight scenarios. The lack of clear guidance on the optimum wing position for various conditions added to the complexity of operating the aircraft. The MiG-23's wing design underwent several changes, with adjustments made to address stability issues and improve performance. Despite efforts to enhance maneuverability and short takeoff and landing capabilities, subsequent modifications introduced new challenges, complicating the handling of the aircraft, especially during critical phases like takeoff and landing. Adding to that, the MiG-23's weapon system was ill-matched to its performance capabilities. Equipped initially with basic missiles, such as the K-13, the aircraft lacked the sophistication needed for long-range engagements. This mismatch, coupled with the absence of essential equipment like radar warning receivers, severely compromised the MiG-23 MS's combat effectiveness. The consequences of these shortcomings were dire. In confrontations with the Israeli Air Force, the MiG-23 MS suffered significant losses, exposing its vulnerabilities and limitations. The disappointing performance of the aircraft led Egypt and Libya to reassess their reliance on Soviet equipment, instead opting for American F-4s and French Mirages. Despite efforts to improve the MiG-23 series with subsequent variants like the ML, the legacy of the MiG-23 MS remained tarnished by its dismal performance and the disillusionment of its pilots. The struggles faced by those who operated the MiG-23 MS serve as a cautionary tale, highlighting the importance of thorough testing and evaluation in the development of military aircraft. As the MiG-23 MS faltered on the battlefield, questions arose about the efficacy of Soviet military technology and the reliability of alliances built on the promise of advanced weaponry. The disillusionment stemming from the MiG-23 MS's failures spread beyond the confines of the battlefield. reshaping geopolitical dynamics and influencing strategic decision-making in the Middle East. But could there have been more to the story? Were there hidden factors contributing to the MiG-23MS's downfall? I guess we will never know. Number 9. Sukhoi Su-2, 1937. When the Su-2 was born, it was significant for its status as Pavel Sukhoi's first creation, yet its journey to prominence was anything but assured. Constructed during a period of metal scarcity, the LaGG-3 was one of the last aircraft to be built with mostly non-metal materials. Its design foreshadowed the use of composite materials in modern aircraft. Armed modestly with 4 fixed 7.62 light machine guns and a cumbersome turret housing a single Shkas, its combat debut during Operation Barbarossa yielded predictable losses. Though swifter than its eventual successor, the Il-2, the Su-2 lacked survivability, firepower, and payload, rendering it outmatched against foes like the Bf-109F. While the Il-2's robustness and mass production solidified its legacy, the Su-2 languished in secret, confined to gaming lore as one of War Thunder's less effective aircraft. Thus, Sukhoi's first venture emerged as a footnote in aviation annals, swiftly eclipsed by more formidable designs of the era. The Su-2's rapid descent into nothing mirrored the fate of its contemporaries, underscoring the relentless pace of technological advancement in wartime aviation. As the demands of aerial combat evolved, so too did the expectations placed upon aircraft designers like Sukhoi. But despite its shortcomings, the Su-2 provided invaluable lessons that would shape future Soviet aviation endeavors. From its shortcomings, it was proven that the need for sturdier, more heavily armed aircraft capable of withstanding the rigors of modern warfare was important. Well, this demand would soon be met by successors like the Il-2 Sturmovik. Despite its initial setbacks, the Su-2's legacy endured in unexpected ways, its design elements and engineering innovations serving as building blocks for future Soviet aircraft. Sukhoi himself would capitalize on the lessons learned from the Su-2's shortcomings, leveraging his experience to develop more advanced and capable aircraft in the years to come. Thus, while its tenure as a frontline combatant was brief and undistinguished, the Su-2 left an indelible mark on Soviet aviation, laying the groundwork for future successes. As the war progressed and technological advancements accelerated, the shortcomings of the Su-2 became increasingly apparent. Its vulnerability to enemy fire and limited combat effectiveness rendered it obsolete in the face of evolving aerial warfare tactics. But even as newer, more advanced aircraft took to the skies, the Su-2 continued to serve in secondary roles. Its versatile design adapted for reconnaissance and ground attack missions. However, the Su-2's relegation to secondary duties was short-lived, as advancements in aircraft design and manufacturing rendered it obsolete. By war's end, the once promising aircraft had faded into nothing, its legacy overshadowed by more illustrious counterparts. Remarkably, its contributions to Soviet aviation, however modest, would not be forgotten, serving as a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of its designers and pilots alike. Number 10. Tupolev Tu-144, 1968. The Tupolev Tu-144 was a jet airliner that promised much but ultimately delivered little. Its turbulent development cycle was marred by setbacks and disasters, never living up to its initial hype. The Tu-144's production model was 65.7 meters long, with a wingspan of 28.8 meters. It could reach a top speed of Mach 2.2, or more than twice the speed of sound. Its unique features included double delta wings, foreplanes that extended from the fuselage, and a drooping nose that allowed for better visibility during takeoff and landing. Back in 1968, when it first took to the skies, it was celebrated as a milestone in aviation history, beating Concorde to become the first supersonic airliner. However, this initial triumph was short-lived. Behind the scenes, the development of the Tu-144 was made up of rushed decisions and a singular focus on achieving supersonic capability at any cost. The chief designer, Alexei Tupolev himself, believed that too much priority was given to the project, siphoning resources away from more practical aircraft designs. The intense pressure to succeed led to shortcuts in the design process, resulting in a fundamentally flawed aircraft. Moreover, strategic tactics were employed to gather crucial data, highlighting the lengths to which the Soviet authorities were willing to go to ensure the success of their flagship project. Yet despite these efforts, the Tu-144 failed to live up to expectations. The tragic turning point came at the 1973 Paris Air Show, where the Tu-144 suffered a catastrophic mid-air disintegration, claiming the lives of its crew. This incident dealt a severe blow to the aircraft's reputation, leading Aeroflot, the launch customer, to reconsider its plans for initial passenger routes. Instead, the Tu-144 was relegated to the less glamorous role of cargo transport. As attempts were made to salvage the aircraft's reputation, it became apparent that its problems were far from over. Reliability issues plagued its early passenger flights, with numerous technical failures marring its performance. Passengers endured unbearable cabin noise and the constant threat of depressurization, highlighting the aircraft's inherent design flaws. Efforts to rectify these shortcomings, such as engine replacements and technical assistance from the West, proved inadequate in restoring confidence in the Tu-144. Despite being referred to as a symbol of Soviet technological prowess, it became synonymous with failure and disappointment. The final nail in the coffin came with another fatal crash in 1978, prompting Aeroflot to cease passenger flights altogether. However, in a surprising twist of fate, the Tu-144 found a new lease on life as a supersonic flying laboratory for NASA, showcasing its potential for scientific research rather than commercial aviation. No doubt, the Soviet Union's most destructive aircraft left a legacy of devastation in their wake. But despite their failures, these aircraft were also testaments to human ingenuity and perseverance. If you enjoyed learning about these infamous planes, be sure to check out the recommended video on your screen for more fascinating stories of aviation history. Who knows, you might just discover your new favorite aircraft.